Thank you for the questions. For as long as I've been in politics, food security has been an issue. And before I was mayor, in fact, I had a call from a gentleman named Nick Saul in Toronto that wanted to have a new kind of food bank in Halifax, similar to what he had in Toronto at the stop. And so that was in 2011. And when I became mayor, we started talking about where could we put this. And from my office here, we called Sobeys and said, look, you're closing that store on Primrose. Have you ever thought about what you might be putting in there in its place? And one thing led to another. And of course, Sobeys have been very generous supporters of the family center, the Dartmouth North Food Center, and of course, in its incarnation today. And, the city donated $80,000 towards the new campaign. When we wanted to expand the plots and put them up in the hill, I had to go back to Sobeys again and say, listen, would you allow us to use that land? But food security is a big issue. So up to 1 in 5 families across HRM have issues of food security. Certainly Dartmouth North is an issue, but you can name probably 10 different communities where it's a very, very big issue. The mobile food market, which was meant to address the issue of food deserts, started right in my office. And we said, look, let's bring in Metro Transit at the time, see if we can find a vehicle to get fresh fruits and vegetables. And then we expanded it with the EAC and with Superstore and everybody else. And now the mobile food market's been very successful. And the city just contributed money so they could buy a new vehicle. But community gardens have expanded across HRM. It is what we have to do. We have to look at the production of food and the security of the people who need food, and we have to work together to find ways to get it out to the communities. And I think that we've taken some good steps. We helped the Common Roots Farm find a new home. We worked with Hope Blooms when they wanted to set up at Murray Warrington Park. And now we're looking at food production across HRM, and we want to make it easier for people to produce food close to home, that's fresh, that's available, that's healthy, and hopefully not too expensive. So food security, it's in my platform, which I encourage people to go to at mikesavage.ca and look at some of the things that we want to do. We want to work on the commitment towards a municipal food action plan. Council has put money towards that. And that will encompass a lot of things. Food security is a very big issue for a lot of people. And when you look at what's happening in Dartmouth North now, and also with things like the mobile food market, where we're getting better, but there's a big need and there's work to be done.
Well, I think we need to work with organizations like North Grove, and provide better funding to these organizations, let people understand there are kids going to bed hungry, and really push that message out in the world. I mean, right now in Halifax, it's almost like we wait for people to come to us to ask about the facts. We have to give them the facts. Okay, this is what's happening. These are the people that are hungry right now. This is what's going on. This is the funding that we want to provide. But also there's very wealthy communities in Halifax. And I know a lot of people who are very wealthy that would have no problem with donating to some charities and donating to some of the problems that face in Halifax, especially when it comes to food shortages and people going to bed hungry at night. They have no problem donating to these causes, but no one's ever asked them. And that's a big thing in the city. We need to reach out to these groups. We need to reach out to these people. We need to reach out to get more funding. We need to reach out to the provincial government to get more funding for these groups. I think funding is what it comes down to at the end of the day, and whether it comes from the people in the community or the city itself, we need to work with community organizations like North Grove to make it happen and get the message out that there are people hungry in Halifax right now, and we need to fix that.
Great question. I was in Dartmouth on Friday, and I stopped by the No Frills at the end of the McDonald Bridge and did some shopping there, and I have to say they have some great deals. I think the key is to keep this top of mind, not just at election time, like a lot of topics that pop up just once every 4 years. Listen to the folks that this is their concern, this and the price of rent and homelessness is a huge concern. So it has to be more of our concerns. No one at the door saying, Matt, I want more bike lanes. Matt, I want you to spend more time tearing down statues. Matt, I want you to spend more time and money buying armored police vehicles. What they're saying is that we need a break. We need help. Keep taxes low. A lot of people don't realize that when we increase taxes, the landlords just pass those increases on to residents. So even if you're renting, you're still involved in paying taxes. And the more money you spend on paying taxes and rent, the less money you have to spend on groceries. So yes, there's parts of HRM, including your part there, that is a food desert. And we need to make it easier for folks to build and invest, reduce the red tape so that people can put in grocery stores, reduce some of the monopolies. There's certain lots in HRM that the big guys own, and they're not letting little guys move in there because they own the land, and we need to do something about that. So it's a focus of mine, and it will be for the next 4 years.
Well, you know, when I first got elected mayor, we held a session of council and asked each of the councillors what's an important issue the city needs to move on. And a number of us mentioned housing. Myself came down to speak to that issue, Jennifer Watts, Way Mason, and other councillors said, hang on, time out now, that's not our issue, that's a provincial issue. We don't have a role in housing. And it may be true that it's not our mandate, but it absolutely is our responsibility. And so, you know, not that long after that, I got council to endorse, I think unanimously or close to unanimously, that we join the Housing and Homelessness Partnership. Out of that has come a number of things. One is a specific housing first development on Gottingen Street, where we actually contributed money. Again, some people thought that wasn't our job, but it has to be our job. And you know, I think housing first is a really important approach, that people have to have a roof if they're going to have a chance at a sustainable life and any kind of equity. So we've taken some steps, but there's a lot more that we need to do. And we have to work with other partners at the provincial level. We need to get new housing stock. Yes, we need to refurbish some stock, and yes, rent supplements play a role, but we really need new housing stock. The federal government has been quite supportive of housing in recent years, and we need to make sure that here in Nova Scotia we access that. There's a new fund announced just last week, for example, that would allow municipalities working with NGOs, not for government, not for profit organizations. It could be Adsum House, it could be Lake City Woodworkers, it could be anybody who has an idea to build a house where we can get money directly from the feds and access. So as part of our recent center plan deliberations, we've made housing a centerpiece of that, that if you want to build to a certain level in this city, you either have to include affordable housing or you have to put money into a fund. And then that fund has to be used directly to provide affordable housing. As a city, we need to look at all the land we own. You know, is there land that we can use? That's a big part of the cost structure of housing. We're going to be looking directly at what can we do with the fees that we charge as a city. Why do we need to charge fees if something is going to be an affordable housing project? Can we take those fees right off the table? And can we work with the provincial government on other things that we need their support on? If they won't give us money, and in some cases they're a little reluctant to, then we'll find the money and we will look at directly investing, helping people to invest in affordable housing, getting rid of fees, things like that. Reducing, eliminating municipal fees, I think would be a very big piece of it. So there's a number of things we can do, and I think people now understand this. I mean, I see some of the people who are running for council say, "Oh, I want to build affordable housing." Well, that's not what the city does, but we can certainly help, and I think we can contribute.
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to put more pressure on the provincial government. I mean, we're kind of handcuffed by the provincial government in a sense because they have so much power. And we're the largest municipality in Canada. The fact that we can't change more things, that we don't have the power to change more things, especially when it comes to affordable housing, is ridiculous. So first and foremost, putting pressure on the provincial governments to give us the power back. Number two, I think Mayor Savage has talked about this as well. It's repurposing some of these abandoned structures, some of these structures that aren't used as much in Halifax, some of these buildings that just don't really get used, into affordable housing units and into shelters. There's a lot of places in Halifax that sit there and they lay empty, or they sit there and they're massive 4,500 square foot properties that nobody uses. I mean, everybody goes in every once in a while to clean or rent out, but nobody's using them. We should repurpose these places into affordable housing units and into shelters for people. And number three, I've really explored the options of rent control. I've been talking to my team about it. Some of my team's a little iffy, saying it would hurt the economy, but I'm saying, listen, if someone's paying $1,500 this month, they shouldn't have to be scared that, 6 months from now they'll be paying $2,000, and 6 months from then they'll be paying $2,500, and this blah 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 blah. It keeps going up and up and up. And Halifax, when we keep putting up these massive condominiums that cost $3,000 a month, well, we need to make sure there's affordable housing units within these condominiums. If people want to keep building condos in Halifax for the wealthy and the incredibly wealthy, we need to have affordable housing units within these condominiums. Every new development should be forced to have some affordable housing units, and that's what I believe.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I wish I'd never heard of that term, renoviction. It is, it's disgusting. It is very insensitive. I think that our landlords, and they're not all rich and they're not all doing well. Many of them are new Canadians that buy a place and then rent out a place. Some have been here longer and have made more money. But I think that as a landlord, you have a duty and an obligation, a moral obligation to your tenants to look after them and to not just accept their rent each month, but to look after them. That being said, rent control is a very difficult thing to implement. I think we've had it in Nova Scotia in the past. It may not be fair to change the rules on landlords that have invested in these buildings and in these businesses expecting a certain return, and then to say, well, you can't do that now because they've leveraged themselves and their livelihoods. There has to be a way to work with the province to do better. And the province has certain things that they're interested in talking to the municipality about, and other things that they're just not interested. Some of these things don't generate a lot of votes. They're not sexy. They're not election topics. And so a time to hit the province, who is in control of these things, is their election, and that's coming. We know there'll be a new premier coming when we have this Liberal leadership race. So it's about a partnership between the province and the municipality, doing better so that folks don't get left behind like they are right now, encouraging landlords to do the right thing and to look after their tenants and to not charge outrageous increases in rent, and to be aware of the fact that landlords are just business folks like the folks that own coffee shops and donair shops, and they need to make a return. If they weren't so leveraged because it's expensive to do business in HRM and it takes a lot of time to cut through the red tape and to get things approved, all those things add to the expense that gets passed along to the tenant. So do better, less red tape, make it easy for landlords to build more buildings quicker so that the vacancy rate has a positive impact and people have a choice of where to move. And that will help everyone from social assistance all the way through. So it's an important election topic for us this time, and it'll be a huge election topic when the province goes to an election.
That's a big issue. So first of all, just in terms of how do we handle the litter in the community, we have had some cutbacks in the city because of COVID. In order to keep other essential services going, we probably haven't been doing as much on that front. But you can go on our website and you can find out how to organize a community cleanup, for example. You can see what areas are being cleaned up in the spring cleanups by our municipal operations folks. You can call 311 and report unsightly premises or circumstances where you see a mess in the community. We discussed rats at council just the last week or so to say, we have to make sure that we look at areas that are being infested by rats, particularly, all over the municipality there are issues of some vermin, but we need to make sure that particularly in those areas where people simply don't have the resources to do it themselves, that we need to make sure that we support people, to clean up their neighborhoods and to work with Clean Nova Scotia. Clean Nova Scotia does some incredible cleanups and organizes cleanups, and I think that the city could help. One of the things that we've done for some areas that really sort of matter to me and also to local councillors is we designate a certain day towards a cleanup, towards a cause. We've done it with bikes, we've done it with international students, and there may be something working with local councillors that all of whom are interested in this issue, that we can put some resource behind making sure that our communities are clean. And I think in terms of needles and things like that, we do have to support things like safe injection sites to make sure that people are both safely and as healthfully as possible managing addictions, which in most cases are not their own fault.
Well, I think there's something in the downtown core of Halifax, and the name escapes me. I know, I should definitely know this, but essentially there's students and there's volunteers that go out and they help clean up the city. And it's a pro bono thing they do in the summer, and some get paid a little bit amount. It's a nice summer job for people. But from what I understand, it's only in the downtown core of the city, around the waterfront area, around the little South End area. I think that should be extended to go all over the city, all over the HRM. That program should also be in Dartmouth. There's people in Dartmouth that be willing to do it as well. That program should be, even as far as Muscadabit if we can. I think we need more funding in these programs. We need more structure when it comes to garbage collection as well. We need more frequent garbage pickup to make sure people get their get their things taken care of. I mean, let's say, for example, if you're living in the city or you're living anywhere and your garbage collection's on a Monday, you're not necessarily told how frequent it's going to be if there's a long weekend. Maybe they skip the day for you, and that's annoying for people, and they leave the garbage out and they start littering. I think we need to keep these things in place. We need to get more people out there to help volunteer to clean up the city. And really, there's not a lot of messaging in the city saying we want people to help clean it up. There's really not that much messaging in the city, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So we need to have more messaging to say, hey, this is a beautiful city. Pick up your garbage, don't litter. We need to have a little bit more fines for people who do litter. I'm pretty sure in Halifax you can throw a cigarette butt and you don't get fined for it. I think that's in Halifax, and you can't have that happen. I mean, it's the little tiny things like that you can't have happen. So we need to fix these little things, and as we fix little things more and more and more, we'll get the whole community to hold cleaner.
Great question. And if you've been following me for the last 8 years, and the last 4 years in particular, this is a real pet peeve of mine. It's a very small percentage of people that actually litter. It's the same folks at the same bus stops, leaving their coffee cups and their cigarette packs. It's not all of us. It's probably not even 90% of us. It's probably like 10% of folks that do it. Some people say that more garbage cans is the answer. These people litter right next to garbage cans. They just cannot be bothered. And I think that folks that are aware and that don't participate in this need to step up for those people. We're already doing all kinds of good deeds now. If each one of us picked up one coffee cup or one cigarette pack, there'd be nothing left. So I started doing that 8 years ago, picking up stuff, and I know lots of people that do it. Luke McDonald, that owns Aerobics First, has a litter run, and daily these guys are picking up garbage. They shouldn't have to, but unfortunately, litter bugs and insensitive, those folks will always be with us. So us people have to step up. More garbage cans isn't the issue or isn't the solution, because there's lots of garbage cans. If you have garbage and you commit to buying a coffee or whatever it is, you need to commit to putting it in the garbage. Dartmouth is beautiful. Dartmouth North is beautiful. And we just need people to have a sense of pride that they don't participate in littering. And I think a lot of the litter that we see along the highways is stuff that's blown off the back of trucks. So being more aware that, when you leave a destination, a construction site or whatever, and there's stuff in the back of your truck when you leave and it's not there when you get back, something happened and that ended up on the side of the road. So we got to step up. We need to be more aware, call people out when you see them litter. I have family members that have followed people when they throw something out the window and at the next red light passed it back to them. So you can do that. Maybe these folks, some people just aren't aware that it's bad. We have some habits and hobbies that we do that we don't know they're bad. Some we know they're bad and we do them anyway. Let's just talk to these folks, work with them, and they're a small minority of us. The rest of us are playing by the rules, and the rest of us care. And I think that's a big part of the secret.